Hello, and welcome to the first video in our showcase of the kill team matchup between the Phobos Strike Team and the Ork Kommandoz. If you're new here, which is all of you, we are Third Set of Eyes, a channel dedicated to letting people be the third set of eyes on games of Warhammer 40,000 Kill Team so that we as a community can elevate our gameplay together. My name is Mouse, let's get into the game. Our first game between these two teams takes place using the Turning Point Tactics Octarius map pack, specifically Map 4 Straight. This is a long board deployment where each team has a narrow but deep deployment zone, oftentimes meaning that action in the center of the map is close and personal. There are 6 objectives in this game, and the mission type for this one is Secure. As a reminder, the Secure mission requires operatives to perform an action for 1 AP to secure an objective for their team, after which they will hold it until an enemy operative secures it for their own team. Points for controlling objectives are only counted at the end of each battle round. To determine attacker and defender, Phobos won the roll-off and chose to be the defenders to force the Orks into a more vulnerable deployment zone. Both teams selected secondaries under Seek and Destroy. Specifically, both teams chose Rob and Ransack, Eliminate Guards, and Rout. Let's take a look at the operatives that each team chose to take. As the attackers, the Ork Kommandoz select the following operatives for their team. 1 Commando Nob with Power Claw, the Grot and Bomb Squig duo, the Slasher Boy, Breacher Boy, Sniper Boy, Daka Boy, Comms Boy, Rocket Boy, and 2 regular Commando Boys. The Burner Boy was not selected for this matchup because of his lack of utility against 3-up armor saves. As for their equipment, the Breacher Boy will be given the Dynamite, the Rocket Boy will be given Climbing Rope, and the Sniper Boy will be given Climbing Rope and the Sledgehammer after the recent nerfs to the Choppa equipment. On the other side of the table, the Phobos Strike Team will select a Reaver Sergeant with Bolt Pistol and Combat Knife as their leader, the Infiltrator Saboteur, Infiltrator Veteran, Incursor Marksman, Incursor Mine Layer, and 1 Reaver Warrior, also with Bolt Pistol and Combat Knife. For their equipment, both the Reaver Sergeant and the Reaver Warrior will be getting grapnel launchers. The Reaver Warrior will also have the Grav Shoot and a Crack Grenade, and the Infiltrator Veteran will have a Smoke Grenade. The custom weapon rules for the Infiltrator Veteran for this game will be Balanced and Lethal 5. Each team sets out their barricades now, with the Phobos team creating some staging options for the top and middle avenues toward the midboard, and the Kommandoz extending a covered avenue along the bottom portion of the map. Since the Phobos team chose to be the defenders for their side selection preference, they must deploy first. As such, their first 2 deployments are the Veteran and the Reaver Warrior. The Veteran is deployed with an engage order, but is positioned so that they'll be obscured from the bottom flank in the first turning point, even with the potential movement from a recon dash or shush ploy. The Reaver Warrior is deployed on Conceal to ensure that they can push the center of the board safely, but they also have the option to switch to engage with the Infiltrate scouting option if that looks worthwhile. The first Kommandoz deployment is for the Bomb Squig, Comms Boy, and Slasher Boy. The Bomb Squig is deployed now in kind of the only reasonable location for this board side, so the Kommandoz try to limit the information available up front to the Phobos team. The Slasher Boy is deployed on Conceal behind heavy cover to stage for turning point 2, and the Comms Boy is positioned so he can move up towards objectives 1 or 2 and secure them in turning point 1. The Phobos team is withholding their most important 2 operatives for last, so they deploy the Mine Layer and the Saboteur next. Both of these units are area denial options, but the Mine Layer can threaten across the board by removing cover saves and ignoring obscurity. The Mine Layer is deployed on Engage to pressure the Kommandoz deployment, but is obscured from the opposite flank. The Saboteur is deployed on Conceal and positioned so that they can fight for central control and counter any staging from the Kommandoz. Likewise, the Kommandoz are holding back their key operatives as well, so they deploy 2 Commando Boys on Conceal, the Daka Boy on a safe Engage to threaten the Mine Layer and keep the deployment for the Phobos team honest. They also deployed the Breacher Boy on Conceal, telegraphing either a pre-game recon dash or shush ploy to get him into safety before the game starts. The Kommandoz are attempting to limit turning point 1 information and have the Phobos team deploy conservatively as a result. The final Phobos deployment puts both the Marksman and the Reaver Sergeant on engage behind heavy cover. The Marksman is set up to limit the safe deployment options for the Kommandoz, even when using Shush to get to cover, and the Reaver Sergeant is set up to threaten forward deployment options using Sneaky Git. Having half of the Phobos team set up initially on engage is not that scary against the Kommandoz team as long as they avoid the Rocket Boy when he has Boom Boy active. With the option to counter the Phobos deployment in the last stage, the Kommandoz select to forward deploy the Sniper Boy in a position to harass the Infiltrator Veteran and slow down mid-board aggression. Since the Phobos team doesn't have a forward deploy option, it was possible to hold the Sneaky Git deployment choice until the final deployment without losing options. The Kommandoz also show their hand and commit to a deployment using Shush at the beginning of Turning Point 1. This side of the board would be extra punishing against teams that don't have a team-wide pre-game dash option, but the Kommandoz at least can get their team into light cover before the game starts. The placement of the Grot covers a total of 5 objectives when repositioned with the Shush dash. The Rocket Boy can push far enough up the board to avoid the mine layer with Shush as well, and the Knob is positioned in the middle of the board to dish out APL buffs and stage for Turning Point 2 melee combat. Moving into the scouting phase, both teams choose the Infiltrate option. The Kommandoz selected this option because it beat both options that the Phobos team would likely take, and the Phobos team selected this option because they could pay for a recon dash with Elite Reconnaissance if they won the initiative, but didn't want to commit to the dash option if they weren't going to be going first. This confirms that the Kommandoz will be going first in Turning Point 1. Before we get into the turn itself, let's talk about some strategies that each of these teams are trying to set up. The Kommandoz know they're going first in Turning Point 1, and they have Shush available. They also don't have any reason to reveal any secondaries. The plan for this turning point is primarily to stage for Turn 2. Take 3 points, maybe 4 if possible, but not overextending. The Grot can backdoor an objective if the Phobos team misplaces operatives. At the end of the turning point, set up for openers to Turning Point 2 like a Knob charge, Breach a Dynamite, and or Squig Suicide Charge. Rocket can position for flanking options in Turning Point 2. Also calculate when and where Just a Scratch has the best value in the turn if necessary. Due to the weak cover and deployment options on this map side, spend 4 Skulk About to increase survivability and close distance for that second turning point. On the opposite side of the board, the Phobos are confirmed to go second in Turning Point 1, but their core game plan doesn't change. They need to affect the numbers difference without trading units in Turning Point 1, so they don't fall behind early. The Reaver Sergeant can charge or shoot the forward deployment sniper, but make sure that the veteran can smoke off to cover him and protect against returning fire. Secure 3 points only and don't overextend early. Damage sustained by the team in Turning Point 1 makes subsequent turning points much harder. Vanguard and Bolter Discipline in Turning Point 1 will keep Kommandoz honest and apply pressure downrange. As we open up Turning Point 1, the Kommandoz play Shush and Skulk About, and the Phobos respond with Vanguard and Bolter Discipline. This leaves the Kommandoz team with 1 command point, and the Phobos team with 2 command points for Turning Point 1. The Kommandoz immediately start with violence by shooting the Infiltrator Veteran with the Sniper Boy's Da Best Spot ability. This is done even though the Sniper Boy is within charge range of the Reaver Sergeant, trying to get extra value out of the forward deployment and chip down the veteran's wound count. Ultimately, the shooting by the Sniper Boy doesn't yield any crits, and therefore no mortal wounds, resulting in only 2 damage inflicted on the veteran. The Phobos respond by shooting at the Comms Boy with the mine layer from the oil rig vantage point. As an incursor, the mine layer's weapon has the no cover special rule, allowing only the Skulk About defense die to be retained by the Comms Boy. Slightly hot shooting from the mine layer deals enough damage to outright kill the Comms Boy. The Kommandoz opt not to use Just a Scratch at this point because it is very early in Turning Point 1, Bolter Discipline is still available in this activation, and other operatives in play are potentially more worthwhile to protect. After killing the Comms Boy, the mine layer climbs down the oil rig and moves to Objective 6, which the mine layer is able to secure for free with Vanguard. From there, he dashes to be obscured from the Rocket Boy on the other side of the map. One of the Commando Boys moves onto Objective 5 and secures it for the Kommandoz. In an attempt to soften the long-range firepower of the Kommandoz, the Phobos Marksman climbs onto the close vantage point and shoots at the Rocket Boy with the Incursor ability to ignore obscurement. the marksman scores 3 critical hits thanks to their lethal 5 weapon, meaning that although the Rocket Boy could retain 2 normal saves as a result of cover and skulk about, the Kommandoz instead choose to fish for crits to try to bail the Rocket Boy out of trouble without using Just a Scratch. The Kommandoz could choose to use Just a Scratch and survive on 2 wounds, but such a heavily wounded Rocket Boy would only provide minimal long-range threat. Plus, the marksman still has a second shooting action available. Instead, the Rocket Boy takes 11 damage from the marksman and dies. The second round of shooting from the marksman targets the Commando Knob, who again benefits from both light cover and skulk about. This time, the marksman scores only 1 critical hit and 3 regular, which means the Kommandoz choose to use Just a Scratch here, keeping the Knob out of injured status. The second Commando Boy now moves up and secures Objective 1 for the Kommandoz. With the primary long-range threat out of the picture and Just a Scratch used for the turning point, the Reaver Sergeant is a bit safer to push the Phobos line forward by charging the Sniper Boy who is forward deployed. First, he spends an action to strategize and gain a command point for the Phobos team. Then he activates Terror for free and charges the Sniper Boy with a combination of Vanguard and his grapnel launcher equipment, to then fight the Sniper Boy. The Reaver Sergeant drops one of his attacks against the Sniper Boy, so the Sniper is able to parry out against the Reaver Sergeant, which he does to prevent the Reaver Sergeant from getting an Overwatch opportunity against the boy below on Objective 1. The Sniper Boy also does not get any critical hits, which would have had the stun special rule in place from the Sledgehammer equipment. This is a tough combat for the Kommandoz, but they play it defensive to ensure they have more tools available going into Turning Point 2. As the Kommandoz focus now shifts towards Turning Point 2 plays, the Breacher Boy moves up to Objective 5 and stages for the next turn. The Phobos activate the Veteran and move dash onto Objective 2, securing it for the turn. More staging from the Kommandoz team as the Bomb Squig moves near Objective 5 behind heavy cover, but positioned to get through the door. With operatives grouping up on Objective 5, the Phobos Saboteur moves and dashes to contest the objective, but doesn't have a high enough APL to secure it away from the Kommandoz. Instead, they use their final action to plant their explosives in front of the door on the objective. The Kommandoz Daka Boy uses Daka Dash to peek out and shoot at the Phobos mine layer. Without having unload slugs active due to the distance between them, the Daka Boy still is able to score a critical hit against the mine layer and chip them down to 8 wounds remaining. The Daka Boy then moves behind the far door to remain a threat for Turning Point 2. The final Phobos operative to activate is the Reaver Warrior, who activates Terror for free, moves, secures Objective 4 for the Phobos team, and then dashes to stage for Turning Point 2. With the Phobos team now eligible to take Overwatch shots, the Commando Knob boosts the APL of the Breacher Boy with Get It Done, and then moves and secures Objective 3. The Kommandoz are sure to position the Knob here such that they can charge the Saboteur if they win initiative, but that they're not in range of the Saboteur's explosive token if they don't win it. With no eligible Overwatch actions, the Kommandoz are able to activate the Slasher Boy. They move and dash up the side of the large scramble pile near the center of the board, staging again for Turning Point 2 support along the bottom flank. With the final activation of the Turning Point, the Kommandoz activate the Grot and move onto Objective 3 so that it can stage to snipe Objective 4 in Turning Point 2 if the Phobos misstep and don't keep track of them. And this brings us to the end of Turning Point 1. The score after this first turn is 3-3, with both teams securing their close objectives and neither team managing to score any of their secondaries yet. At this point, I want everyone watching this video to pause and write in the comment section which team you think is going to take this game, based on what you've seen from the board state here in Turning Point 1. I want to see what people think is going to happen based on this board state, and I'm not grading for accuracy here. It's fine if you just vote for your favorite team and you don't want to think too hard on it. While you're there, go ahead and like the video if you've enjoyed the content thus far, and give us a subscribe if you think we deserve one. We'd love to have you see our upcoming videos as well, especially if you're learning something from them. Okay, with your predictions written in the comments section, let's continue on into Turning Point 2. Again, let's take a moment to pause here and look at the Turn 2 strategies that each team is going to be employing. The Kommandoz win the roll-off and once again will be acting first to start the turning point. This knowledge enables them to act to eliminate the opening play by the Phobos Saboteur. Losing the Rocket Boy in Turning Point 1 was a heavy loss, but there are opportunities in Turning Point 2 for the Kommandoz to get into melee combat. The bottom side of the map now is also pretty lean due to losing 2 operatives on that flank, so a rotation of force is going to be required to shore up that side. The Phobos team is feeling good about the shooting from Turning Point 1, but Turning Point 2 fights still could swing the momentum that they've managed to create. The basic premise of the turn is utilize Vanguard again to leverage action economy and keep up pressure for securing or resecuring objectives while still creating downrange pressure. Don't leave any APL on the table if you can avoid it. The smart usage of command points in Turning Point 1 gives the Phobos team extra flexibility in Turning Point 2. As we start off the second turning point, the Kommandoz play Wah as their only strategic tool, deciding that a team-wide buff in melee combat is more important than another usage of just a scratch. The Phobos respond by playing both Bolter Discipline and Vanguard again, but also by omni-scrambling the visible Commando Boy on the bottom side of the map. After strategic ploys have been declared, the Kommandoz have 0 command points remaining, and the Phobos team has 2 command points for use in Turning Point 2. The Kommandoz then reveal Eliminate Guards as one of their secondaries, selecting the Saboteur as the intended target. The Phobos team also reveals Eliminate Guards as their secondary, and they select the Commando Knob for their target. Both teams then reveal Rout as an additional secondary to be scored in this tournament. The first operative to activate for the Kommandoz is the Commando Knob, who again gives an extra APL to a close Commando Boy before charging into the Saboteur on the other side of the heavy terrain and fighting him. Courtesy of playing Wah at the start of the turning point, the Commando Knob is able to strike first with a makeshift critical hit, ensuring that the Saboteur is killed in only 2 hits. The Saboteur does inflict 4 damage back with a critical hit of their own, bringing the Knob down to just 5 wounds remaining and finally injured. This kill scores 1 victory point on Eliminate Guards for the Kommandoz. Responding to the aggression on the top side of the map, the Phobos team pushes the center of the board with the Reaver Warrior, who moves and shoots into the squig at point-blank range. The AP-1 bolt pistol from the Reaver Warrior makes short work of the squig and manages to push 13 damage through, killing it. This kill will score 1 victory point on Rout for the Phobos team. With a second shooting action still available, the Reaver Warrior takes aim at the Breacher Boy holding the dynamite and fires into him. Again, the AP-1 bolt pistol scores all hits on the target, sending a lethal 14 damage into the Breacher Boy. Now that the top side of the map has all but collapsed for the Kommandoz, the top side Commando Boy activates to secure maximum value in objective control on the weak side of the board. The Boy charges into the Saboteur and fights him in melee combat. Enough hits are retained by the Boy that the Mine Layer cannot parry his way out of the combat alive, so they trade blows until the Mine Layer falls. With this kill, the Kommandoz score 1 victory point on Rout. With the bonus APL granted by the Knob earlier, the Boy is also able to secure Objective 6 for the Kommandoz. Leveraging their firepower advantage on the bottom side of the map, the Reaver Sergeant activates for the Phobos team and fights the Sniper Boy to finish him off. No surprises here, as the Reaver Sergeant is able to quickly execute the already injured Sniper Boy. This death does cause the Phobos team to reveal Rob and Ransack, however, declaring that they feel comfortable the Reaver Sergeant will survive until the end of the battle. The Reaver Sergeant then activates Terror for free, moves on to Objective 1, secures the objective for the Phobos team, also free because of Vanguard, and shoots into the close Commando Boy. Since the Reaver Sergeant drops one of his shots and hits on 2s, the Phobos decide to spend a command point here on a command reroll. The boy, however, is not going down easily and makes both of his saves. With no other tricks remaining, the Phobos have to settle for dealing 8 damage to the boy, but not killing him. Attempting to push back the battle lines drawn by the Phobos team, the Commando Daka Boy activates next and uses his Daka Dash action to get in a close range against the Reaver Warrior before shooting him. The Unload Slugs ability gets good value here, converting 2 out of the 3 misses and forcing the Phobos team to spend another command point on a command reroll to keep the Reaver Warrior above the injured condition. The Daka Boy forces through 6 points of damage, putting the Reaver Warrior at exactly half wounds. After a decent round of shooting, the Daka Boy retreats onto Objective 5 with his final activation. The Phobos keep up the pressure on the bottom side of the map as the Veteran charges and fights the injured boy. The Veteran scores plenty of hits, and without the command points available for just a scratch, the Commandos have to let the boy fall here in combat. The Veteran then shoots into the Slasher Boy thanks to clever placement after the charge, making sure that the Veteran would be within 2 inches of the Slasher Boy for the follow-up attack. The Veteran drops 1 shot despite the free reroll, and the Slasher makes the statistically average single save against the Bolter, resulting in 7 damage inflicted upon the Slasher Boy. Trying to salvage some value out of the Slasher Boy before he falls, the Commandos activate him next. Despite his injuries, he is able to scramble over the scramble pile and secure Objective 2 for the Commandos. This mispositioning by the Phobos team may be the opening that the Commandos need to keep pace in this game. The final operative on the Phobos squad to activate is the Marksman, who takes aim at the Commando knob to ensure points for eliminate guards. However, the Emperor had other plans apparently, and the Marksman only scores a single critical hit against the knob. The knob has a chance to get out of the shooting attack with no damage, but isn't able to make their 4-up save to cancel out the crit. Still, the attack only pushes 4 damage through on the knob, leaving him with 1 wound remaining. A second shooting action by the Marksman clearly causes the Marksman to focus up, scoring now 4 regular hits into the knob. There's no way the knob can survive that number of successful hits, but he manages 2 critical saves nonetheless as a testament to his resilience. The knob finally goes down, scoring 1 victory point for the Phobos team on eliminate guards. After both shooting attacks, the Marksman drops off the vantage point and stands on Objective 4 to prevent the Grot from backcapping it away. Disappointed by the Phobos team keeping their head and not messing up their objective security, the Grot zips across the map and dashes through the heavy door in front of the Phobos deployment to ensure that he will survive into Turning Point 3, where he can potentially annoy and backcap more objectives for the Commandos. And with that, a violent Turn 2 is in the books for this game. The score currently sits at 8 total victory points for the Phobos team and 9 victory points for the Commandos. The Phobos managed to score a point on all 3 of their secondaries in Turning Point 2, but the Commandos played the primary objectives well and managed to steal one away from the Phobos team. A great roll-off here to start Turning Point 3, where both teams roll a 6. The Phobos finally get their break, however, since they break ties, and they'll have the first activation as we head into Turning Point 3. Each team will have only 1 command point to work with as they formulate their game plans for the final stretch of the game. Again, let's pause and look at the strategies for each team going into Turning Point 3. With the Phobos team finally getting the first activation and a turning point, they're poised to inflict heavy damage and cut off any effective countermeasures from the Kommandoz. The first objective in this turn is to secure a double kill and lean on their advantage in the remaining operatives. Don't overcommit to chasing individuals and zone them out of sneaking any primary points away. For the Kommandoz, managing to bat cap an objective during Turning Point 2 was a nice find to keep the score close, but the Kommandoz are fully in damage control at this point going into Turning Point 3. If they can annoy and persist for long enough, they might be able to keep up scoring some more secondary points and not get too far behind on the primary. The Phobos open up the strategy phase by omni-scrambling the wounded boy on the top side of the board. The Kommandoz opt not to play any strategic ploys, but the Phobos team closes out the phase by playing Vanguard for the third time this game. The Phobos select the heavily wounded Slasher Boy as their Eliminate Guards target, and the Kommandoz audaciously select the Marksman to be their Eliminate Guards target. Hoping to further his excellent shooting streak, the Reaver Warrior activates and shoots into the Daka Boy. It seems the hot streak may have ended, however, as he only scores 2 regular hits against the Daka Boy, both of which manage to go through. The Daka Boy then takes 6 damage, enough to injure him. Content with at least causing injury, the Reaver Warrior then activates Terror for free, charges into the wounded Slasher Boy, secures Objective 2 for free with Vanguard, and then fights the Slasher Boy on the objective. Both operatives are dangerous in melee combat, but the unfair starting point means that the fight is easily won by the Reaver Warrior. The Kommandoz decide against using Just a Scratch here for 2 reasons. 1, it would only mean 5 damage is returned against the Reaver Warrior, which wouldn't really change the game state, and 2, it probably has better value towards actually helping them win if it's used elsewhere this turn. The death of the Slasher Boy scores the Phobos team their 2nd point for Eliminate Guards. The injured Daka Boy now returns fire against the Veteran. Because of his injuries, is only able to score a single critical hit against the target. The Veteran is dropped to 6 wounds, but is crucially not injured from the shooting attack. The Daka Boy then finishes his Daka Dash by retreating back to the heavy cover on Objective 5. The Phobos Marksman shoots at the vulnerable and scrambled Commando Boy on the top side of the map, who is out in the open. Although he was already injured, the Marksman redeems his shooting from the previous round and deals 11 damage to the Commando Boy, killing him easily. With his remaining actions, the Marksman then scrambles over the scramble pile, dashes onto Objective 6, and secures it for free thanks to Vanguard. Seeing what may be their only opportunity, the Commando Grot moves through the door and onto Objective 4, tucking themselves into as much of the heavy cover as possible and securing the objective for the Kommandoz. The Veteran then scrambles over the scramble pile next to them, secures Objective 3 for the Phobos team, and then levels their gun at the Daka Boy to return the favor from earlier in the round. Again, the balanced keyword from his custom weapon ends up not salvaging his drop shot, but the Veteran still manages to push through 8 damage against the injured Daka Boy. This kill scores the 2nd victory point for Rout for the Phobos team. With the Grot as the only remaining model, the Kommandoz will not have any Overwatch opportunities. As the last activation for the Phobos, the Reaver Sergeant moves and dashes onto Objective 4, activates Terror for good measure against the Grot, secures the objective for free thanks to Vanguard, and shoots into the Grot at close range with his bolt pistol. An excellent display of shooting pushes 12 damage into the grot, absolutely obliterating him and the remaining chances of the Kommandoz in this game. With this capstone for Turning Point 3, the Kommandoz are now out of operatives. The Phobos team will score 6 additional victory points, bringing their total up to 14, and the Kommandoz will score only 1 additional victory point to bring their total to 10. Moving through the 4th and final turning point is mostly a formality for the Phobos team. The only move to note is that the veteran will move on to Objective 5 and secure it for the Phobos team, which locks the Kommandoz out of scoring any points in the final turning point. The Reaver Sergeant will survive until the end of the game, giving the Phobos team a perfect score on secondaries in this one. The Phobos will also max out their primary in the turning point, bringing the final score of the game to 19 on the Phobos side and 10 on the Kommandoz side. This game was kept close through the second turning point, but the Phobos were able to stave off the Kommandoz effectively while still executing on their own mission objectives. The Kommandoz struggled to close the gap and get into melee combat, and with the Choppa equipment now no longer a viable option, they fell short in the number of melee operatives needed to bring down the Space Marines. The 3 most valuable units in this game were all on the Phobos side, with the Incursor Marksman claiming the gold medal for the game. The Marksman was responsible for 3 kills in 5 shooting actions, one of which was the crucial early kill on the Rocket Boy, which freed up the other long-range tools on the Phobos side. The silver medal went to the Reaver Warrior, who performed an excellent job as the tip of the Phobos spear into the center of the board. The Reaver Warrior was responsible for 3 kills across 3 shooting actions and 1 fight action. Both the Squig and the dynamite-carrying Breacher Boy were killed by the Reaver Warrior in Turning Point 2, which eased the pressure on the Phobos lines as they pushed forward. Finally, the bronze medal goes to the Infiltrator Saboteur for their outstanding map pressure. Although the Saboteur was never able to capitalize on the pressure, if the Phobos had won initiative going into Turning Point 2, the Saboteur was poised to pick up 3 models in a single action, which would have collapsed the Kommando's game plan even faster than it played out. This forced the Kommandoz to deal with him in the first activation of Turning Point 2, allowing other models, like the Reaver Warrior, to step up and maintain the momentum for the Phobos team. And there we have it. Phobos take this match on an Octarius board playing the secure mission type. Based on your prediction comment, were you surprised to see the outcome of the game? What did you see or not see? Feel free to provide your thoughts below and I'll make sure to answer any questions that come up. I can't wait to experiment with other mission types and board layouts to really dig into this matchup. If the Phobos or Kommandoz aren't your jam, however, leave what teams you would like to see battle it out next into the comment section and I'll get working on their video when there's enough support. Until next time, learn lots and be good if you want to.